All right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome. So this is my series of live streams where I am just coding and developing and hopefully get to an end result. My name is Ryan Lowe. Thanks for joining. I am an Alexa evangelist, Alexa developer evangelist. My role is to help educate and inspire developers to work with Amazon Alexa, which is works on a series of devices you see behind me. And part of my job is to, code and be knowledgeable of the services and inspire others. And so that's what I'm doing with this series of live streams and videos and Twitches, is that I am building out a skill live over, I don't even know. I have no idea how long it's going to take. I have the idea in my head, but it's not well formulated, so you get to join me for the ride of trying to figure out what it is I'm building, how I'm going to build it, what services I'm using, all that stuff. You get to watch me make typos in Python and misconfigure YAML files and the whole fun. So it's just a live stream dump of my brain as I'm trying to work through this problem. So what is it that I'm trying to do? Along with a co-host, Jeff Blankenberg, hosts office hours for Alexa developers every Tuesday. And one of the things that we were realizing is that we have hours and hours and hours of archive footage. After it's live streamed, we store it in YouTube, where it just sits. And the problem is we have tons of questions and answers in there, but it's really, really difficult to find a specific answer. You can go and watch any of these videos from weeks and weeks and weeks of videos, but if you had a particular question in mind, you'd be hard time finding that particular answer. So I thought this would be a great use case to go ahead and live stream and build and show how we would solve this. And so that's exactly what I'm doing. I have a GitHub repo where I'm checking in kind of at the end of every single one of these sessions and as we're going, and that's what I'm building. So this is kind of like the overall view of it. This is not 100% documented because I don't know all the different pieces yet. This is just kind of my preliminary brain dump and kind of what I'm focusing on. I'm focusing on the back end side of this before I dive into the Alexa console and set up the skill and everything there. So I haven't even gotten to that point yet. So what have I been working on? The general idea is going to be kind of at the end of every session, there's going to be a YouTube video posted that we will somehow, I haven't determined this yet, we'll get a trigger from YouTube. We're going to download that video, store it in Amazon S3. Amazon S3 is just like a storage service. It does a lot more than that, but that's what we're using it for, is an intermittent storage service. From there, we're going to kick off a series of steps that will then, the end result is put into an Elasticsearch database text that we can then search from the video. And the way we do this is, the first step is we need to convert the file format from the YouTube MP4 format to the proper format that the Amazon services use. I am not an expert in codecs and all these different media types, but I've worked through this before, so I know exactly what we need to do to set that up. Then we run the video through Amazon Transcribe, which will take the raw video and pull out all the words from that video, which is really, really cool. The next service we run through is Amazon Comprehend, which is able to look at that raw text and pull out information from there. Then that is what we end up storing in Elasticsearch, kind of this like indexed and layer of comprehension on top of the raw text. And so what we end up with is paragraphs of text with timestamps, so we can zoom right to that, stored in our database, which we're going to use Amazon Elasticsearch, or I think it's OpenSearch now, as our full text search database. From there, once we kind of get this working, what we're going to do is then work on the Alexa skill, which will allow us to say things like, show me office hours videos when we were talking about let's say APL, Alexa Presentation Language. Or like if you have a more specific question, you can ask that. And what we'll do is we'll have a Lambda function that is the backend for our Alexa skill. It's going to go query that Elasticsearch database and pull back results. And on devices with screens, which some of these are screens, I got the Echo Show 15 and some of the other Echo Shows here. With the screens, we'll actually start playing clips of office hours at that point in time when we're talking about that topic. For devices without a screen, we will just play the audio of that. And so that's what we're working towards. The idea being that we just have a skill where you can just say, show me where about this, and then you see Jeff and myself or other guest speakers talking about these answers. So that's what we're building. So what have I built so far? You can look in the code repository and see what I've built. I have, and this is my code repository. Let me close all my tabs and start from scratch. So I've built a series of Lambda functions. So I'm also using the Service Application Model framework from AWS, which kind of sits on top of Cloudformation. And so what this allows me to do is write Lambda functions and then have them be packaged up and automatically deployed. So it's infrastructure as a code, allows me to control my infrastructure and deploy it from the command line. And then as I make changes to the infrastructure, like last time I had to go in and increase the timeouts. So I was able to just come into the SAM Cloudformation template and increase the timeout by adding a parameter here. And when I redeployed this, what it did is it recompiled all the source code, put it up to Amazon, and then refreshed my Lambda function with this new timeout setting. I didn't have to go into the console and do anything. It did everything here. So what this allows me to do, and actually is that anyone could download this, run the SAM command line, and deploy this infrastructure into your own AWS environment. So anyone can follow along with this, and it makes it just super easy to kind of control everything. And so if I need to migrate accounts or do anything like that, this is a really, really handy way of doing it. And I definitely recommend using Cloudformation or SAM directly. Okay, so what have I done? So I have built pieces of that infrastructure. And maybe if I pull this kind of side by side, oops, wrong window. Safari is what I'm looking for. Let me just pull this over just right now. So what I've defined my S3 bucket. So it's when you deploy this for the first time, it's going to create an S3 bucket, set up all the permissions to be very secure, not open, wide, public, all that. And then I have a series of Lambda functions. So what's missing from this diagram, in my architecture diagrams, I more tell a story than I give an accurate representation of every single resource that's going to be deployed. So here I'm using, I've just listed the different services that we're using, but I'm actually using Lambda functions to call and invoke these different services. And then I wrap all those Lambda functions into a step function that kind of acts as my orchestration. So I have a step function that will kick off when a new file gets added to S3, and it'll go through these different steps. So what are the different steps? I have a Lambda function that starts the transcription process by calling Amazon Transcribe. So I started here with Amazon Transcribe. I have a function that checks on the status of that job. I have then a series, two Lambda functions that will be run in parallel to call Amazon Comprehend and get the full text results. And then I've defined my state machine here, this whole box. I've defined a state machine to kind of orchestrate this whole entire thing. And that's what this is. There might be a better way of doing this, but my preference of defining this is you define the state machine in JSON, which is then wrapped into a giant string inside of a YAML file that's the Cloudformation template. It seems kind of counterintuitive, but it actually works really, really well. But it is prone to error, and I will make typos. I've already made big typos in this, and we'll resolve that. And then I have all the different roles. So each of the Lambda functions will have their own role. The state machine has its own role to be able to run and execute. And then I had, this was a really interesting piece. So in order for Amazon Transcribe to run the most effectively, what I've done is I've created a custom vocabulary for that. Amazon Transcribe doesn't have any Cloudformation support. So what I had to do is create a custom Cloudformation resource that would then run as a Lambda function and go create the custom vocabulary via Lambda. Really, really handy tool. Custom Cloudformation template resources allow you to basically do whatever you need to do beyond what Cloudformation supports directly, which is fantastic. Okay, so where did I leave off? I left off as my state machine was running and doing these two processes. So let me go into AWS now. I'm going to bring it back to full screen. So this is my stack as it's deployed via cloud. The SAM command line will deploy this out there. This is my stack that I've been working with. So every time I run the SAM CLI, it updates here. And in here, you can see all the different resources and links to everything. So what I want to show is the state machine. So this will open up in a new tab. And last time this ran, which it just ran at the very end of the last session, which is really great. You can see here, this is a visual representation of what I just talked about. Transcribe start, and then we wait, check on the status. The great thing about this is that this process here is to start the transcription. Transcription might take 20 minutes. But the way I have this designed is that I use a Lambda to kick off the transcribe process, which runs in a few milliseconds, just as an API call. And I have another function that checks on the status, like just another API call. But I put it into a wait loop that waits like 30 seconds in between each step. So what this allows me to do is check on the status of this transcription without waiting for the transcription to end. And if I were to do that in Lambda, I don't even know if Lambda could execute in enough time, but I'd be paying, you pay in Lambda for how long your function executes. So having state machine orchestrate this allows me to have functions that execute in just a few milliseconds and kind of coordinate it like this. Really handy way. And then I run my two comprehend things in parallel. And you can see the output of these steps is that I have loaded into my S3 bucket JSON data that I can then put into my database. So that's what we're working towards. And there was a couple things I wanted to do, both update the current process. There's a couple things that at the end of the last session, I was like, I should really change this the way this works. And then the next step, I think what I want to do is add the media convert step in here and get that going so we can have the first step. So we'll replace the first step of the state machine with a new step at the top for a media convert. And again, this is because transcribe can transcribe the video, but only if it's in a certain format. So we use media convert to take the YouTube format, put it into a format that transcribe can use. And again, I'm not an expert in these things. I monkeyed with this a long time ago, and I have all the configuration set just how it needs to work. I don't understand the settings, but I know how to work it, so I'm going to pull that up, and as we go and work with Media Convert, we'll get that going. Hopefully that works still, and things haven't broken. So what did I want to change from this? So one of the things I wanted to change was when you call transcribe, and actually let me open up the transcribe service as well. And you can see the transcribe jobs as they come through. So you can go over to Amazon Transcribe and see the jobs run. This is the last job that ran 2 days ago, Wednesday when I was live streaming. You can see here is a preview of the transcription from then. So you can see it's pulling stuff from the video. And what I wanted to change was if you don't specify an output, when transcribe runs and does all of its thing, it dumps all the results into an S3 bucket that transcribe owns. And then you just go and retrieve it from that service, from that endpoint. So when it's done, it'll give you the URI. You can go and grab it and everything else. I want to change that. So I want to actually put the results into the S3 bucket that we've already created and have a little bit more access control over those results. And then we can worry about how long, by default, I think the results stay in Amazon Transcribe. I think for a period of time, it does expire at some point because it's their own S3 bucket. They're not going to let it sit around forever. So this will allow us to kind of manage that a little bit better. So if I go back over to Cloudformation, I can get quick access to the bucket that got created, which kind of gave it a random name. And so here you can see I already have a couple folders. I'm going to so here is my process folder. So this process is where I'm going to put the video files after media convert's done. I did this manually and uploaded this file here so we could have something to work with. Maybe we'll get to this by the end of today. But what I want to do is I want to create a new folder structure for the transcription results. So maybe we'll call it transcribe results or something like that. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to go back up to our transcribe start method, which is here. So again, like this is 130 lines of code. Most of the code is processing the incoming response, setting up logging, and then error handling. Like this is like the meat of the function, which is just an API call. So I love this. I love this pattern of like creating these Lambda functions, which are kind of like single use, single responsibility. They only do one little thing. And it makes your code so much easier to manage, in my opinion. Maybe with my limited brain comprehension. Let's bring that back up. Transcribe start. So I'm going to kind of look at this in parallel. And then my function here, this is the definition of transcribe start. So Sam, what it's going to do is going to look at this URI, which is this folder here. It will look at my requirements.txt, which shows all the dependencies that I need for Python. It'll package everything up and then put it into AWS and update the Lambda function. So what I want to do is when I'm calling transcribe, I have a bunch of settings, but one of the settings I'm not saying is where to put the output. And that's why by default, it's putting it in its own S3 bucket. So what I need to do is go to the Python SDK library, which is called Botto3. I think I already have this up. Yes. Come down to, so this is the Python SDK. You can come down to transcribe and come down to start transcribe job. That's what start transcription job. That's what we're working on. And these are all the different parameters that you can provide to it. This is the two settings that I want to set. And if we come down to the definition down here below, output bucket name and output key, the location where the transcription is stored. It is not required because if you don't provide it, it will just store it in its own S3 bucket like we've been talking about, but I actually want to change this. So I need to get the bucket name into my function. And the way we can do that is using, we can actually do that using a environment variable. And I think I already am doing this somewhere else. So this is my bucket. Let's see if I'm doing this as an environment. Yes. So here, comprehend paragraph, here is environment variable I'm already setting, where I'm getting the reference for that bucket resource and storing it as an environment variable. So if I come back up to transcribe start and paste that here, now when the definition of this function is going to have an environment variable as the bucket name. So what that means is I can come in over here and let me do this. Comprehend paragraph. I like being consistent, so I end up copying and pasting my own code all the time. So here, I just stole it from the previous function I've already worked on.
I don't have an answer for that.
I triggered my Echo device. That's awesome. The name isn't, the wake word isn't Alexa. I had to change that because I trigger it all the time otherwise. But I did change the wake word to something else. And I must have said something very similar. Okay, so now I have the bucket. And what we can do here, what are we doing? Oh, so that's, okay, so currently I'm excited. I noticed we already have a bucket variable in here, so I need to change this. We'll call this output bucket. So output bucket's going to be there. We already have a bucket and key variables, and what this is that is the location of the video that we're going to run through. So this is going to be the input to comprehend or transcribe. Sorry. Probably, so this I'm passing in as a variable into the state machine. This is probably going to change at some point once we get media convert in place. I'll probably just end up using the same environment variable bucket, but for right now this is fine, and we can change this as we go. So this is the URL. I construct from the bucket and key the URL of where the input is located for the transcription job. Now I need to find the output bucket. So the output bucket, let's go back up to here. Output bucket name and output key are the two parameters to start transcription job. So output bucket name, we're getting from the environment variable. So we'll just paste that in here. And then output key. So output key, we're probably going to do some sort of randomization so that we get a key that just makes sense. So you can specify, but I want to make sure that they don't automatically create like the ending like job name key, and I think they do. So you can specify a location Amazon S3 bucket to store the output of your transcription job. If you don't specify an output key, Amazon Transcribe stores the output of your transcription job in the S3 bucket you specified. By default, the object key is that. You can use object keys to specify the S3 prefix and file name of your transcription output. For example, specifying S3 prefix this as the output key would lead to output being stored as, and that's what we want. So we don't want to specify necessarily the name, the ending file name. We want transcribe to generate that based upon the transcribe job name. So what we can do is specify just the prefix, which is like the folder. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to do something similar to that. So output key, let's just call this transcribe results there. So now when this runs, what should happen is that the output bucket will be our S3 bucket, not the internal one, and the output key will be this prefix plus whatever file name they put on there. And this, I think this is all we have to change in this, because when the transcribe status gets called, so again, that first function we modified just looks at the, just kicks off the process. Here, what this job is going to do is this function will return the transcription URL, which should include everything that we need. And let me check on that function just to make sure there's nothing else we want to capture. So this is get transcribe job, which allows us to check the status of the transcription. So that's how you'd call it. Actually, that's the response. This is all you do is pass in the job name, and then this is the response. So I want to make sure the job name is getting passed out of this function so I can use it in the next function. So transcribe job, there it is, which is the job name, perfect. And then my dog, I don't know if you can hear it, she's sleeping and must be having a dream. Pepper, you're okay. I had to wake her up. I think she's having like a nightmare. Okay, so the end result is transcription job. Okay, so it's transcription job. What am I already getting? Transcription and transcript file URI. I think this is perfect. Okay, so this function doesn't need to be changed. Because the next step that we need to modify is the comprehend methods. So here I'm already getting the bucket name. And so what I'm doing here, and this is what I wanted to change. So currently the way this works is that I get the transcript URL from the result of the transcription job, which is their own hosted bucket. And then I'm doing a URL open and processing the JSON response from that. I want to replace this now with an S3 like get file or get object, whatever it is. So instead of just opening a URI, because now this will fail because the URI is not going to be available to me retrieving it this way. I need to actually go and do an S3 request. So let me find in the Bot03 documentation S3, which is up at the top for some reason. And let's see, this is not the right thing. What happened? S3. Okay. So what I want to do is I just want to get an object. Boom. Okay, this will get me the object. But I want to make sure that I am getting the contents of the object as well. So that's the request syntax. This is the response. So it does include a streaming body. Okay. And then in situations like this, I always do a quick Google search just to make sure I'm getting the body correctly, because there's lots of different ways of doing this. So because this is a small enough file, I can just pull it all kind of into memory. If it was like the actual video file and I was copying it, I would be doing streaming and doing a bunch of other things like that. I don't need to get that complicated for this. So we're just going to just kind of pull it all in. So this seems to be kind of what I was more expecting. But just to make sure, Boto3, S3, JSON, load. Let's see if there's a better way of getting JSON into an S3 from S3. Yeah, it's the same exact code. Okay. So, so we need to get our S3 client. We already have the S3 client. Awesome. So here is the transcribe URL. We already have the bucket. So we may have to do a little bit of parsing of that URL to get to what we need. And that is totally fine. So S3 client, get object. Let me just go back over here. See, I like this better. S3 resource. Yeah, let's do this. S3 resource, object bucket key. Yeah, this I find be more simpler. I don't know. Okay. So output key is what I'm going to call it. We need to get this from the transcribe URL, and we should be able to see what that transcribe URL looks like by going back. The nice thing about the state machines is that it keeps track of like what was passed in and what was passed out. So here, transcript URL. And now I see why we were having trouble. Oh, this makes a lot of sense. So I was having trouble. I didn't connect this last time. This URL is secure, but what they do is they give you a token as part of this that does expire. So you can go and get the object out of S3 using this secure token. But I'm guessing this is expiring on me, and that's why I was having trouble. Rerunning the same inputs and outputs again. So again, another reason why I just want to pull this away and just do my own, stores my own S3 bucket. This is just going to be a lot cleaner. Okay, so let's see if the internet has a great way to Python parse S3 URL. Is this what every developer does? This is what I do. I just go and search the internet every time I come across any minor inconvenience. That's how they're parsing it into an S. I want to parse out. I may just need to just do some simple thing. Okay, so I'm going to take this example. And what it should be, actually, all I really need is this last bit here. That's really all I need. Oops. So we can do where. And how do I get just the last? Sorry. My brain is not fully working right now. I can do URL parse. I just don't want to. I feel like that's way more work than what I want to do. When really all I want to do is just get the last. Yeah, I mean, this is really what I want. I'm an idiot. This should be, and actually let's just test this really quick because, a little bit about me. I am still learning Python. I started my development experience in PHP, and then I switched over to Java, and then I started doing .NET after that. Then I started doing Node, and so I feel more comfortable in Node. But over the last year or so, I've been really pushing myself to learn Python better, and so I have a long way to go in my Python. And so, look, that's exactly what I want. That's where I'm at now. So you'll get to see me learn Python throughout all this as well. Okay, so I'm actually going to put this up here just so it's more consistent. This is code that I skipped because I don't think we need it. I'll come if we do need it. So the original, I forgot to explain. I'm stealing a lot of this from this blog post that I read on using Amazon Transcribe and Comprehend to parse through podcasts. And so they are doing a bunch of stuff that we don't need to be doing. They have a couple different state machines. My use case is different, but I can still pull a lot from what they're doing. So there's parts of the code. I shamelessly am copying and pasting from this blog post and the GitHub repo attached to this blog post, and then just modifying it myself. And that's really what these blog posts and other examples are for. So before working for Alexa, I was in AWS. I wrote a bunch of blog posts and full AWS solutions. This is exactly the whole point, is to showcase. And I would fully expect people to rip apart my stuff and reuse it. So, okay, this gets me the resource. Now I have the bucket from the environment variable. I have the key, which comes from the last chunk of this, but that's actually not that's not the full output key. The full output key would be what I specified over here. It should be this. Is the full output key. Because in S3, the output key would include the full path, the prefix, the folder structure, if you will. They're not real folders, but this will get me the full output key. Okay, so now I have that. What I want to do is read this in... I lost my other example. I'm terrible. Somehow I ended up in Django. There it is. So I forgot to put this into a variable. Object equals that. This will get me the JSON string will be that. And then here I can say J equals JSON loads JSON string. And then that gets rid of these two steps. Okay. And then there's actually, there's two functions here I need to modify. There's this one which does the comprehend into paragraphs. There's another one that does the comprehend in full text. They're very similar to each other, but they both take in the transcription URL. And so we just need to make sure that we update both these. So let me do this. I need to make sure and get my Botto3 resource. Okay, so do I have everything I need? I don't have bucket. Oh, I do. Bucket is there as an environment. Not a huge fan of this down here. I'm going to put this up here for consistency. So my bucket is always in the same spot, like defined before the handler of the Lambda function actually kicks off. Okay, so now I have, so here, I don't have output key yet. So we need to get that from the transcribe URI or URL, which is actually just being passed in to this. So they structured these two Lambda files quite differently, even though they get run in parallel and they kind of do similar things. I'm sure they had their reasons. I'm not criticizing them, but I just need to make sure that I'm careful here, because here they've defined a function to process the transcript, and way down here at the bottom where the Lambda handler starts, they are pulling the URL out of the event and passing it up to that function. So I just need to make sure that kind of doing the same thing here. So we have transcription URL from here. We have the output key. We're defining, now I get my object, JSON data. See, here this is, instead of JSON data, I'm going to get rid of this now. And we should be good. So now I need to make sure that these two functions, what's going to be, okay, so transcribe start has access to my S3 bucket. That's good. What I need to make sure is that my comprehend, they should already have access to these. And we definitely don't need podcasts in there. That was just a copy and paste from sample code. They do have full access to get files out of our S3 bucket, so we should be good there. Okay, let's go ahead and redeploy this. So what we do is we come over here, and what we're going to do is we're going to run SAM build using a container. So SAM will go and build our Lambda zip file so it can be deployed and run by Lambda. It says use container here because what we're going to do is we need to use Docker and a special Docker container that AWS published to compile this in the right format so that all the dependencies, everything just works magically when it gets compiled and goes up to AWS. And then I'll run SAM deploy to actually deploy that. So the first one kind of builds it locally, get your files ready, and then the second we'll actually deploy it. And again, SAM uses Cloudformation, so what it's going to actually do is going to create a change set. And it's really, really cool. So here's the current state of my whole Cloudformation stack, which is basically describes all my infrastructure. And you can see here, like there's a copy of the template up here. You can view this in Designer. I'm just kind of stalling while this rebuilds all my functions. So here you can see all the different resources that have been deployed so far that we've defined and so on. Yes, sleep page. And so what it's going to do is it's going to compare what changes I just made to the changes that are already deployed in AWS, and it's going to get me basically a diff, and it's going to come back and say, do you want to apply this change set there? And the nice thing is, if I say yes, it'll deploy it. If there was a bug, if something didn't get deployed correctly, it can roll back to the previous known state. So I have it deployed and it's working fine. Now I can deploy changes, and if everything breaks, it'll just revert back to the last known working state. It's also configurable, but I prefer to have it always roll back. Okay, so now it is uploading, building the change set. Okay, so here's everything that it says needs to be changed. Roles and Lambda functions and the state machine and all this good stuff. So I'm going to say yes, deploy these changes, and it should pop up over here, and you should be able to, like, we could watch the events come through where it's updating in progress. The same events also appear on the CLI, so we can just watch it here. But everything should be getting updated. And then what we can do is we can actually do a test and run this whole entire thing and make sure that all the permissions are set, everyone has access to S3 that needs it, and so on. So let's wait on this to make sure it does actually deploy correctly, which it should. So things where this would deploy, where this would roll back would be where you have a problem where it couldn't actually deploy the infrastructure. Typos in your code, which happens all the time with me, do not stop the deployment because it doesn't actually verify your code is correct. It will deploy it, even if you have like significant typos, which I do. But like, let's say my state machine isn't configured correctly and it can't physically deploy that state machine that I've defined, or I have properties misnamed not named correctly here. Like if I had run times, this would fail to deploy and cause a rollback. Okay, so that got deployed. And now if we're not going to see too much of a difference. The difference is going to be as this executes, the transcription URL should change. And actually, if we go into Amazon Transcribe, we should see this change. The output data location should change to our S3 location. So let me start a new execution of this. And see here, I'm passing into this the bucket and key of my already processed file. Eventually, this will be the bucket and key of the raw YouTube file, but we haven't gotten that far yet, so I'm just doing the processed one. And we're going to start the execution. And this whole thing is going to take 15 minutes or so, but let's just make sure that the first step, the first thing I'm worried about is, does transcribe have access to that S3 bucket that we're pointing to? And I would expect this to start correctly, but I would expect an error to happen really quickly, and transcribe status, when it gets called, would give us that indication. We could also come over here and look at the job and see if anything happens here. Hasn't completed yet. So far, no significant errors. Let's come back here. Status is in progress. Or step output in progress. Cool. Okay. So while this is going, we can work on the next step, which is if I go back to my architecture diagram here, I need to add the media convert step. So again, what I'm running everything through right now for testing and transcription and everything is an already converted media file that I've run through media convert. I did this a couple months ago as I was just kind of playing around with this whole idea. So now I need to actually define this, because if I pull down YouTube videos, transcribe can't actually read them. Transcribe will error out. It's the wrong format. So I need to create a Lambda function to do all of this. And so it basically start the media convert process and so on. So let's start by going into Botto3, our Python SDK, and looking at, let's see, media convert here. And we can also, will be also very helpful to pull up is media convert in Cloudformation. So we're probably going to be creating some Cloudformation resources. There is Cloudformation support, which is great. And specifically, there is this thing called a job template. And this is what we're going to be using. So in past, I've figured out what all the settings are needed to make this thing work. Media convert. Specifically, media convert can do like almost millions of permutations of conversions. There's a specific conversion I need to go from YouTube to transcribe, and I figured it out. I have no idea what it was, but I saved all those settings, and so we can just kind of pull from there. So let me also pull that open. Actually, yeah, let me do that. It's in different AWS accounts, so I just need to sign in there. I pulled it off screen. Sorry. But I believe like what we're gonna have to create a job template. So here's what I'm thinking. We create a job template as a resource. So when the stack deploys, CloudFormation deploys, it builds out that job template. And then when we call in media convert, we're going to do the same sort of thing. We're going to, the media convert can take a while. It's converting big jobs. So there should be like a start job, create job. Here we go. And what I'm hoping to do is give it what it needs, but hopefully one of these, you can define. So, okay, take a step back. You can define all the job settings when you're creating the job, which is here, which you can see like this thing is a beast to kind of go through. And again, I went through it once and had fun figuring out what all is needed. And I don't want to go through that again, trying different permutations. Because again, I'm not a media convert expert. But I do have what I need. So what I'm hoping to do is just provide it the bare minimum when we're creating a job, which would be the job template. So if I can give it the job template and then the input file, I think that's all that's really necessary in order to make this thing work. I'm hoping. Okay, so I already have a job template defined in my other accounts. Let me just pull that up. Okay, so here it is. This should be what I'm looking for. I don't understand all these settings. I did at one point a couple months ago as I was going through here, and I figured out what's needed. Here are the jobs. Oh, we don't have the jobs anymore. But hopefully this will do what we need to do. If not, I'm going to cry because I'll have to go through and figure this all out again. Let's see. So these are the inputs, input filtering. Like you can do so much with this service, and I don't understand any of it. But what I do know is that this is the proper output that we need, this formatting specifically. And so that's what we're going to do. So this is the JSON for that template. And I'm just going to copy this. And again, I set this up a couple months ago, so I'm just going to steal for myself. Okay. So let's start by creating in CloudFormation the job template. So we'll copy over the definition. So I'm going to, where should I do this? I will do this. Let's just do it here after. I'm getting to the point where I need to start breaking up. I am my CloudFormation template. Okay, so we need a name. Media convert job template. Okay. So this is my new resource name. This is the type. It's going to be a job template. Let's get rid of stuff we don't need. Okay, so settings JSON, I think, is where we need to put all of that information. And so I'm hoping they interesting. They don't have an example of that. That's fine. Let's see what's required of this. Let's start there. Okay, so no required, no. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at these different properties and seeing if any of them are actually required. No. Okay, settings JSON is. That's what we have that, so we're gonna provide that. Okay, so let's just start by just doing settings JSON. And the type of this is a JSON string. So it should be, I'm hoping it should be something similar to like, let me make sure I'm doing this right. So Cloudformation, JSON string in YAML. I just want to make sure I'm doing this correctly. Keys do like that. And then copy. I don't think that works. There. It does kind of work. Okay, so name, we're going to call this YouTube template. So this, okay, so by the definition of Cloudformation, this is all I need in order to create a job template. And in fact, weird. Where'd I go? There it is. We don't even pass in a name property. It just goes straight in the settings JSON. So the other thing I want to look at is what are the return values. So if I call a reference on this, or if I call get attribute, what is it actually going to give me back? So this, if I do call get attribute name, I can get the name of this job template, which is going to be useful because that's what we're going to pass into our new Lambda function. Okay, so next up we need, I like putting the Lambda definitions kind of in order that they're executing. So we have this media convert's going to be the start of it. So let's just call it YouTube conversion. And I'm just going to copy all these parameters because most of them are useful. So I do need the S3 bucket of the incoming file. It's not transcribe start that we're calling. So the next thing is we need to look at like what permissions this function has or needs. Let's find out. So let's do media convert IM. Okay, so creating a role in media convert. So when you create a job, you need to create a media convert default role. Interesting. Okay, so we're going to have to create that role. Okay. New role. Media convert IM role Cloudformation. Yeah, this is going to get fun. Okay, so did you get answered? Sweet. Okay. We need to create, so, and if I go back to the Botto 3 definition here, one of the things I have to do when creating starting a job is give it a role. If I actually go into, let's just go into media convert and look at, and start to create a job manually. Get started. Okay, so what do we need? Input file, that makes sense. Holy moly, this is a lot of stuff. Where does it talk about role? Okay, what is the... Bear with me. This is, again, I have this loosely in my head, but I haven't designed it all out. Holy moly, that's a really long definition. Role required. I am role you use for creating this job. For details, go here. Okay. In the media convert with full, you can create IAM role in these ways. The media convert console with full permissions for instructions. In the media, see creating role in IAM. That's what we want. Creating the role in IAM. So service type, media convert, connect permissions. So we need, okay, so it needs to assume the role from media convert service. What permissions does it actually get? Oh, okay. So if I go, oh, this is fun. Okay, so let me go into IAM. So if I go to roles, you see all kinds of fun stuff in here. So if I were to create a role using the console, and maybe that's what, maybe it's a good idea to just go through this first. So media convert is what I'm looking for. I go next to permissions, and it already grabs permissions it needs. So it has these two policy names, policies that it brings in automatically. So it's calling API. Okay, so we can just replicate this. Okay, so let's come down here to our roles. Media convert job role. So it is IAM role. So it's going to assume role by media convert. So basically when we're calling media convert to start the job, we're saying here's the role for you to assume, which will give you permissions to access stuff in our environment. That's really what we're doing. And we have to provide these policies basically. So we need to figure out, I might just, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to create one temporal. I'm just going to backwards into how to define it in Cloudformation. So the first thing is, this is the trust relationship. So here, what I do is I copy and paste it from state machine. So we have to do something very similar. State machine assumes a role that we provided so it can call stuff in our environment. And so the trust relationship here is media convert instead of states. I just didn't know what that was specifically. And then the permissions are these two policies. And we should just be able to grab those two policy names directly. So Cloudformation IAM policy name. We should be able to specify that directly. Oops, I meant to click on policies. It's right there. So manage policies and inline policies. So there's those two managed policies is really what we're looking for. I don't want to go to there. I want to know how to specify it. I've done this before. trying to see if I have my cheat ready to go. Okay, so it might actually be here. So basically, here's what I'm looking up. So I can include the policies here, or I can just reference the manage policies, but I can't remember how to reference the manage policies here. And so what I'm doing is I'm looking up an old Cloudformation template that I have, but it's not there. So Cloudformation role manage policy. Attach an IAM manage policy. Okay, manage policies. This is exactly what I was just looking for. I want the YAML version. Okay, so this is exactly what I was looking for. Instead of policies, it's just manage policies. And then it's not reference so they're using reference because they're passing it in as parameters. No, lost my window. Other window. Here, I should just be able to get the policy ARN. Here we go. A little scary that they're requesting full S3 access. And then, what was the other policy? Full this access, but that's what they need, apparently. There's something I saw underneath the full access here. S3 object lambda. Okay, so cool. When media convert runs, we can pass it this role and it'll have access to absolutely everything. Neat. Okay, so now we have a role. We need to pass that in. So media convert role. We haven't even started defining the actual the code yet. We're just defining the infrastructure around this. I think I need to do get at ARN, right? Yeah, ARN. Okay, so now it's going to create that role for us, and then I'm going to get the ARN for that role and pass it in as an environment variable into my Lambda function. So then I can pass that in code when I'm calling the start whatever. So this role is no longer needed. I'm going to delete this role. It's probably premature. I should have probably made sure that actually worked first before I went ahead and deleted the role. But I did it just to see if everything would work correctly. Now what I want to do is I want to look up what policy is needed to create the media convert job. Okay, yeah, I get it. Policies, I'm going to say create policy. Choose a service, media convert. And there's probably a few things that I need. I probably need to list job templates. I probably need to get job template. I'm probably going to need create job. Those three things are probably what this function is going to need in order to kick off. And what I can do is, this is what I like to do. I like to specify it here and then switch over to, well, in a second you'll be able to switch over to the JSON version to be able to see what it actually looks like. So job template, that's okay. Let's just say all resources for right now. Come on, give me the, there we go. This is what I was looking for. So here, when I copy and pasted this, it had the definition for the transcribe start. Now, oh, dang it, let's do this differently. media convert start, effect allow. So we want these three actions. And I don't want on everything. And in fact, I think I want to change this up a little bit. So let's add. I think we also have to create a queue. USEast 1, queue name. There we go. Okay. What's a preset? Now let's go back into the JSON and see. It should be, yeah, this looks. So now the resources, I will fix these in a second. Oops, not ref, sub. Okay, so we now need to replace region and that. Okay, so I need to fix these ARNs. I shouldn't copy and paste them like this because if anyone else tries to deploy this, then it will be problematic. So here, this is what we want to actually do. So Cloudformation has these special variables for region and account ID. We can just populate in here. And actually, okay, so job templates test. This is the actual, I'm just gonna do job templates, all job templates. In fact, let's do it like that. We need to figure out this queue name thing. So if I go back over to my bot03, if you want to create a job, you specify a queue to send it to. If you don't specify a job, it'll use the default queue. So let's get rid of queue permissions. Actually, let's give it permissions to all queues and all presets. So this is the way I program. I make a best guess effort. I then run it and see what happens. And if it completely fails, it will tell you what permission is missing or what's not configured correctly. And then you can go and fix that. That's how I work. I do that all the time. It may not be as efficient as sitting down and like actually planning it through, but I like just to get stuff done. Okay, so now I think we're ready to start the actual coding of our method. So let me duplicate my transcribe start and call this media convert start. And we'll open it up over here. Actually, I'm going to close these other ones. And I'm going to get rid of a bunch of stuff here that I don't need. I do need. I need to do a service reference. So what does media convert want? This is how you get the media convert client. We get the bucket from the environment variable. We might as well now get the role. Which is another environment variable that we passed in. Excuse me. We don't need that. Okay, so we're doing some logging. Okay, I think this all I am going to remove. So these, okay, so now these, if you remember, are the input to our state machine. So that's what's going to get passed in. And what we want to do now is pass out the media convert what is the, okay, let's check it like this. So when I create a job, again, I'm gonna do the same pattern. I'm gonna have one Lambda function create the job. I'm gonna create another Lambda function and check on the status of the job. So what does this thing return? I had to scroll very far to find out. Wow, this is a monster method. Okay, so this is the response. It responds with quite a lot of details. So let me actually look at what does the get status actually need. Get job, not create job, get job. Get job just needs the ID, the job ID. So when this function returns, I just want to return this job ID. And this would be, I haven't written response yet, but it's going to be response job ID. Okay, so now I know what needs to come out of this function. So now let's actually make our call to media convert. And what I'm really hoping is that, scroll all the way back up here. Actually, I'm just going to go this way. Create job. Okay, so create job. What do we know needs to be passed in? We know the role needs to be passed in. Role equals role. We know the job template needs to be passed in. And I don't have the job template here, so I need to media convert job or template name. This was get. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Media convert. Return values, get at name, the name of the job template. Perfect. Okay. So now we have this as an environment variable. Misspelled that. Equals that. But what else is needed? We're missing, like, what's the actual input? Like, what's the file we're actually bringing into this? And that's where we get down into this whole big mess, which, is there? Okay. Let's start digging through this. This is intense. Kudos for them. This is what I'm talking about. Like, I muddled my way through this. I'm not an expert in all these settings. These settings are intense. Really, really awesome. But I'm trying to figure out, I think the only thing left for me to provide is the URL to the input. And if we go back to, oops, oh my gosh, I have too many windows open. Media convert, it's this input that I'm looking for. Do I do a search for input? That's not helpful. Okay, I just have to look through it. Okay, so audio selector groups. What is this? This is input one, input file URI. Okay, audio selectors, caption selectors, crop, file input. Here it is. Okay. File input. Specify a source file for your transcribe coding. You use multiple inputs in a single job. The service concatenates these inputs in order for that you. Okay, so it looks like it should be just following this, following the path to your CPL, for example. Yeah, okay. Cool. So this is file. Oh no, I lost where this was. if I go back one. Okay, so file input. But it's going to be nested. Bucket. Well, actually, it's part of the event, isn't it? Oops. It should be this. What did I do wrong? I'm so bad at Python. That should be the proper, yeah, okay. That should be the proper file. But, okay, where is input? So file input is nested under just inputs. Okay, under settings. Settings, inputs, this is what I was trying to do. Settings equals inputs. This was an array, right? Inputs array. And then, wow. I'm impressed by this function definition. Okay. I really should change. I realized I really should change all these logger debugs to infos. This is an actual debug. I should change that through all the functions, and maybe I will do that offline. But I think this is all that's needed to actually create the job. I think I have this all set up. Let's see if we can quickly do stub out the function for checking on the status of the job and go from there. I don't think this function actually needs access to S3 because I think the role that we're giving to media convert has access, but I'm going to leave it in there for right now. And actually, I'm going to call this YouTube conversion start. This is taking a little bit longer than I thought it was going to take, so that's why I'm looking at the clock. I'm like, oh, I need to get to a stopping point. Okay, so I called this media convert start. I need to copy this into, what happened? I want to duplicate this, not copy that. Into, media convert status. So now media convert status, what it's going to do is it doesn't need to do any of this. All it needs to do is check on the job, which was this other one we had. And so here, the first one will kick off the start. Its return is going to have this media convert job. So state machine is going to take the response to this Lambda function and pass it in the next Lambda function, which is going to be this one. So I can just pull from the incoming event on this one that to get the ID. And then I'll need to figure out, I need to set up a bunch of other stuff, don't I? I need to set up like where the output of this is going to go. And that might be in the job template. Is that in the job template where this? Yes, it is. Okay. Oh boy. Okay, so this is the output settings. the destination. Okay. Ooh. I need to now substitute things into this very much like I do down here. Okay. Okay, so I need to parse in here this S3 value. S3 ARN. And so now what I'm doing, instead of defining, so exactly I'm doing with state machines. Instead of defining straight, I'm doing a substitution on my JSON string. So you can see here, like here I have like a substitution string. So I need to do basically the same exact thing. Is that how I did it? Sorry, I'm trying to hurry and now I'm rushing. Okay, but what am I substituting? I'm not substituting that. I am substituting S3 ARN. But do I actually get the ARN? I need to go to Cloudformation and see what I actually get. It's actually not even the ARN. It was just the URI. Yeah. So if I go back to here, this is actually the format I need. So what I can do is, okay, I got this. So what I can do, the ref will get me the bucket name. Ref returns the bucket name. So what I need to do is S3 bucket. So instead of that, I do S3. And then what was the ARN I wanted, or the prefix that I wanted in S3? Oh man. See, instead of putting in my actual, like, this is the bucket name that it created, I could put this into the string here. But then if anyone else deployed this, or if I redeployed this in a new environment, or I deleted this and redeployed it, it would not work. So what we want to do instead is use these references. Okay, so I'm saying the output destination should be here. In the bucket, okay. That should work. Okay, let's come back to the status. I know where the bucket name is going to be. How do I know what the name of the file is? I may have to get to this next time. Get job. Okay, where output group details, output details. This is get job, right? Yeah, get job. I want to know what the actual file name is. There should be like an array of output groups. Yeah, base URL. Okay, we may just have to, okay, we're running out of time. So what I'm going to do is just log the response. Then we're going to have to go through the response to figure out what the file name is that was actually used for this. So I'm going to say output prefix find me. That'll just be a clue to my future self to go and figure that out on Monday or whenever. I think I can come back on Monday. Okay, so now the status one, I'm going to say definitely doesn't need S3 access. It should only need get job. And I'm just going to say like this. I'm curious what the job. Okay, let's go back here. Remove. Let's add new. I just want to know what the resource ARN is for get job. Again, I don't like putting like asterisks and stuff like that. Like that really bugs me. Okay, so it's just jobs. Okay, so that should get me access to every single job. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, doesn't need this, doesn't need that, just to get the status. Doesn't even need the bucket name, right? Not doing anything with that. Right? Yeah. Sorry. Okay, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Boom, right there. Already a problem. Where is this? Pardon me. Line 158. What's wrong? Is that like some sort of weird character? Is this not indented enough? What's going on? Oh my gosh, there's no... I'm losing it. Yep. All right, now it's building my functions. I did this really hastily. I didn't expect this to take that much time. I thought because I had the job template already defined that it would be pretty quick, but there's actually quite a lot to it. So I think one of the trickiest things is coming up with this role here, which again, this role is a role that we're defining, and that when we say media convert, start processing this job, we say here's a role that you can assume. So here I'm saying assume role. Media convert, the service, can assume this role, which will give it access to RS3 buckets and other access. So when it's processing, it can have access to our account. So that's a key piece here, is the creation of this assumption. And what I'm not entirely sure is if we may have to update the Lambda function to say, I can pass this role over to media convert. That sometimes is necessary. We'll find out pretty quickly if that is the case. I haven't updated the state machine to include these new steps yet. And that's okay. We'll get to that. And so, yeah, I'm hoping that at least it deploys, and it doesn't. And there seems to be some sort of template error, unresolved resource dependencies. Media convert, unresolved source dependencies. Oh, it should be get at. Okay, so I don't think I just think I can just do SAM deploy. I always said ref the role instead of get attribute. Yeah, I need to rebuild it. Okay, so this is an interesting stopping point. I think it's just because of that one piece. I'm going to get this to deploy, and then that's it. And then I'll check it in. And then next time we'll start and actually where we'll start is testing the conversion start and status. I think we're going to run into some role issues there that we'll need to resolve, like being able to pass the role, assume role, and things like that. And then we will combine media convert into the state machine so that we can start the orchestration. So we can start from the very beginning. So then I need to find my original YouTube video and put that in so we can make sure that that will do the conversion properly. And then the output of that will then get passed into the transcription service. We have to update the transcription service to not look at the input in S3, but look at the output of media convert. So there's a little bit of work we got to do next time to kind of finish this up and finalize this, and then we can kind of move forward. But yeah, this was fun. You got to watch me bang my head. I have fun with that. Yeah, and hopefully this is useful and fun. And the end goal is I'm going to create an Alexa skill. At some point, I'm going to open up the Alexa console and actually do something interesting there. So that's what I'm working towards, just building in the backend services right now. So I'll commit this here in a bit. I'm just hoping the change set gets created successfully. And then I will call that success if that is done successfully. All right, success. All right. Great. With that, I am going to end the stream for today. I will probably be back on Monday, and we'll pick up where we left off. All right. Thanks, everybody.